various assessments and certifications that you can go for and register. They are on basics of labor law, employee engagement, L&Ds. There are 19 online assessment and certification that you can take up. This is a current and an ongoing certification on performance management. The last day to register for it is March 16, 2022. So please go ahead if you're interested in this domain of HR, and you will get an end-to-end solution for your PMS. This is a certification workshop on performance management professional. The workshop is on March 5th, 12th, 26th, and 2nd of April. Fees and timings and other details are mentioned on your screen. And of course, everything is just incomplete without appreciation and rewards. That's what some of us really get driven by. So we at HR Success Talk also have our HR awards. We have done 5 so far: the Excellence Awards, the Global Excellence Award, the Eminent Woman Leader Award, and so forth. Not just this, we have also ourselves got recognition by getting some media coverage on Dainik Bhaskar, Aapki Khabar, Chetna Manch, as you can see on the screen. Proud to mention this. We have 232 plus blogs on our website. So if you feel that you need more information on some aspect of or function of HR, please visit our blog or our website. All this would have been impossible without our founder, Mr. Govind Singh Negi, who is the Senior Director at Talent Management and Delivery Center Lead at 3 Pillar Global. These are all our advisors at HR Success Talk. This is our entire team, and we are proud to say that 64% of our volunteers are women. So yeah, we do focus on diversity as well. That's our organization or hierarchy or structure. Yes, so I'm sure you might be a little impressed, at least, by the amazing presentation that we have given. But now you will be questioning, what can I do to be a volunteer? So what does it take? Firstly, it has to come straight from the heart, as it is both a give and take. We just expect you to invest some time out of your busy schedule, maybe 3 to 4 hours a week, to contribute to this fraternity and get benefited out of it. And of course, you should have the drive or the eagerness to learn and grow. That's what we ask for. And if you wish to be a volunteer, we have various verticals at HR Success Talk. You can be a part of any of these verticals presented on the screen. Do get in touch with the team at the below address to be a part or be a volunteer for HR Success Talk. So that brings me to the end of the presentation on HR Success Talk. We will now move on to our webinar, where I will be introducing our speakers and moderator for today. Just give me 1 second. Okay. We'll first start with Dr. Ankita Singh. She's the Senior Vice President and Global Head, HR, Admin, IT, and Travel at Cygnus Datamatics. She's also the founder of HR Association of India. She has over 22 years of progressive experience in managing and leading various aspects of human resources. She holds a PhD in management and is a gold medalist in BBA and MBA. Recently, she has been awarded amongst the Forbes India's top 100 great people manager by the study conducted by GMI India. Very warm welcome, Ankita.
Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is Mr. Sandeep Modelia. He is the VP and Head Human Resources at Analytics Solution. He's an HR strategist, transformation leader, and HR tech evangelist with more than 20 years of experience across multiple facets of human capital function. During his professional journey, he has successfully led various initiatives on planning and implementing of organization development programs, transformation projects, digitization of HR processes. He's an active contributor in various industry forums, HR groups, academic institutes, to share his experience on the wide range of topics. A very warm welcome, Mr. Sandeep.
Thank you, Aneri. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Dr. Neerav Mandir. He is the Chief Human Capital Officer Officer at Sri Ramakrishna Exports Private Limited. He has been instrumental in this as a CHRO with the company. It's the world's largest diamond and jewelry manufacturing and export conglomerate. Dr. Neerav has achieved his postdoctoral fellowship from South Korea, a PhD from the USA, advanced HRM from IMA, MPhil, postgraduate diploma in industrial safety and environmental management. The list is too long, so I really am flattered by it. He's also a certified lead auditor for ISO standards, that is 9001 45001, a certified assessor for lean manufacturing. He's also a certified leadership coach, innovation and strategy professional from Harvard University, USA, and a certified independent director, IICA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Government of India. A very warm welcome, Mr. Neerav. Last but not the least, we have our moderator, Mr. Devang Pandya. He's the Manager Human Resources at Navera Worldwide. He's presently working in Vadodara and has a 13 plus years of industry experience in the HR field. He's also working as a visiting faculty in prestigious institutes like GLS, IMBA, and Navaratna University. He has worked with Vadilal Industries, Kedala, Muthoot Fincorp, and Lending Tree in various positions. A qualified MBA with a specialization in HR and pursuing his PhD on the topic of HR analytics. He did his certification in HR analytics from IIM Rohtak and holds a diploma in training and development from ISTD Delhi. A very warm welcome, Mr. Devang. With that, I would hand it over to Devang to take this forward. I hope by the end of this webinar, our dilemma of how to manage this talent war would surely be, at least have some solution towards it. Over to you, Devang. Devang, you're on mute if you're speaking something. Seems to be some issue with his network, I believe.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are now. Yes.
I'm sorry, we had this internet issue, so I'm extremely sorry. Thank you very much, Aneri, for the wonderful introduction. So I welcome one and all present over here. Thank you for taking time out for such a great learning program. And with that, let's start. So COVID has put everything on fifth gear. We know it, right? Technological changes, which were expected to happen after 5 or 10 years. Thanks to COVID, we have almost implemented it in this 2 years. To align with the changes, we HRs and business leaders also are working hard. And we are facing so many issues in day-to-day routine. Candidates wants to work from home. Employees are reluctant to travel. Management wants productivity. Management wants the right talent at right time, so on and so forth. To address all these questions, we have our experts to enlighten us with their enormous experience. And with that, we will go with the opening remarks first. We would like to hear it from our experts that what is their view on the topic, the talent war, and then we'll move ahead with the discussion points. Meantime, if participants, if they have any questions, they can write those questions into chat box. Okay, and we will try to answer those questions at the end of the session, if at all they are not answered or unanswered. With that, I would request Dr. Ankita for her opening remarks on the topic. Over to you, Dr. Ankita.
Thank you, Devan. Really happy to be around. I think topic is very interesting, and it has gained more, importance, or I would say people have started talking more about it now. But talent war, in a way, always existed, right? We always thought that we release offer and not many people are joining. There are people leaving company. The attrition rate still remains somewhere around 22 to 28. So how do we manage it? So I would say it's not new, but yes, because of this hybrid model, or because people are invariantly working from home, now the issues like moonlighting and people not joining in, the problems are probably just getting more widened. So do we see a definite closure, or do we think that we will see some improvement in coming months or year? Probably no, because when we talk about gig workers, when we talk about shared resources, when we talk about people trying to work with different companies or different projects at the same point in time, that's not going to reduce because we have all tasted that already. So the challenge for any organization or for hiring team remains same. Um, how how innovative we are in our approach when we are handling these issues instead of being reactive, how proactive we are, that probably would change the game for each organization. Like it said, we are all running the same race, and nobody can say that I will probably put a system in a place which will serve me today as well as for years. Every day is changing. We started with defining a new normal. I'm sure in March, when we actually started talking about COVID, and when on 22nd March everybody started working from home, at least that's what was announced. People said this is the new normal, and same was said for hiring. We will start releasing people now for next 5 years. We don't know where the jobs are going, how many people will be hired, what will be the future skill, whether internal team will be trained or not, or we will just hire from outside. Those questions popped up, and then we said this is the new normal. And if we ask ourselves, probably by May or June, there was another new normal. Then by the end of December, there was third new normal. So I just keep saying that there's no new normal, but every single day we are coming up with next normal. And this momentum will continue even for people, even for the talent that we are trying to acquire from market. It is going to be more challenging, but at the same time, if handled properly, to an extent, we will be able to manage. And a lot of initiative, a lot of innovativeness has to be shown in that direction to ensure that when a person is working with 10 different offers, what's the differentiator because of which that individual will join your company, and the journey doesn't stop there. How engaged your employee is, how valued that individual feels, that the person not only agrees to remain in the system, but also is ready to learn and contribute further, so that they are not just taking care of your current work, but they are also making themselves ready for future. And similarly, sometimes we define a journey of our talent pool, that you come in the system, you grow with the system. We don't consider them as a pull factor where they can get other people from the market to join your organization, which probably most of the organizations still, they just give 5% or 10% importance to that. We do talk so much about referral, but how about connecting with the external world? Instead of hiring team or management, your employees are directly talking to them and telling them, this is the organization you should join for these 10 various reasons. So there are a lot of innovative practices. And when we started, I think everybody went through the same phase. When we started with this process, when we anchored our existing employees and told them that you need to get people for us from the market and ensure that they are part of the culture, we are ready to define the culture, redefine the culture as many times as it's needed. But we want people who are here with heart, and they are ready to contribute. And that has really helped. I think if I consider last 6 months, instead of internal referral alone, we also have people through our employees from external market, which is as high as 22%. So to conclude, I would say talent war will always remain, be it COVID or no COVID. It's just that no matter how great or expert we are with our current processes, we will have to keep evolving. We'll have to change the gear as per the new era or new day we are in.
Thank you, Dr. Ankita. Yeah, I mean, the process of evolving self and connecting our people, you rightly said, I mean, connecting or making them our brand ambassador, organization's brand ambassador, and rather asking for referrals. They go and they sells that, oh, come join us. Wonderful, wonderfully articulated. I would like to move to Sandeep to hear him what he has to say on further, because being a first person, Ankita has the best chance to share everything. And yeah, I would request Sandeep to throw light on it.
Yes, thank you so much, Devang. First of all, good morning to everyone on the call. I see 200 interesting minds ready to spend time in learning on the weekend along with us. I think, first of all, it's privileged to be part of this wonderful panel with so many learned individuals like Dr. Ankita and Dr. Neerav, and as well as a big thank you to this entire HR Success Talk fraternity to organize this platform where individuals can come forward, not only share, but also learn from each other. So with that, as Devang, you rightly said, the problem with having such a high power panel is always that you're running out of words because your panel members have already spoken some of the important essence of this topic. But yes, just picking some feathers out of the things that Dr. Ankita mentioned. As she rightly mentioned, the talent war was there, talent war is there, and talent war is going to be there. It's just that as an HR fraternity, it's a learning, evolving phase for all of us as we have been moving out with different industry challenges, what we call now as a hyper growth and a hyper technology evolution phase. So all of us kind of evolved in this last 2 3 years as a company, as an HR department, as an individual. And what we're now getting prepared and getting adjusted is to the new normal of technology-driven work environment, highly employee-influenced work decisions on work flexibility, hybrid work models, gig worker economy. So all these things are here to stay. Definitely, there is a learning curve for every HR in terms of how each one of us were part of this entire transition when we went into the first pandemic, where none of us imagined how long it's going to stay and how recurring it is going to come through. So we all thought that probably this was the first time situation, and then we dealt with it and we came out of it, and then we realized, oh, we're good with it now, let's get back to what we call as normal. And then again, by the time companies started getting back, you again hit with the second wave, and then you kind of get used to it. And now, as we all have accepted that this is the new normal and this is how world is going to be, so a lot of things have definitely changed from an HR paradigm shift point of view in terms of how employees look at work. What are those priorities that employees put forward in terms of picking the career avenues? Some of the statistics that we recently see, from a growth point of view, it's alarming. NASCOM recently announced that this has been the highest growth trajectory of Indian IT industry for last 6 years. Overall growth of the industry is kind of touching more than $250+ billion as a revenue potential of the company, overall industry per se. One of the important statistics, what we all know is close to 4.5 lakh employment has happened in this sector in last year, the financial year, which is going to end now, as well as at the same time, one side you have a growth, one side you have definitely the attrition, which is primarily fueled by the demand and supply gap of niche skills. So even some of the largest IT companies, when you look at top 10 IT companies, they have actually faced the highest attrition, which is now touching 25%. At the same time, as an HR fraternity, we all know, and Dr. Ankita did mention about it, that our offer backout ratios are going up, your joining bonuses are getting doubled, and to an extent, offer backout ratios are touching 50-52% in industry right now. And at the same time, when you look at some of the recent trends, what people talk about is, the workplace is now going to be a location agnostic, what we call it as, and that's what this whole hybrid work is all about. So people no more want to be in office. People want to be working safely in their home environment with the convenience of being close to the family. At the same time, they also want that touch with the organization. So it's kind of an interesting dynamics that we all know that on one side, employees want to work remotely, but at the same time, the recent survey says that 67% of employees also want to be staying connected with their workforce, their management, their managers, because they believe that only when you're connected you can grow. Only when you're connected you can learn. Only when you are connected you can actually evolve. So these are all interesting paradigm shifts that we have. And as an HR, when we talk about talent war, all the strategies in terms of hiring to retaining to engaging to ongoing upskilling development has to take in cognizant this entire paradigm shift that we have today. And so I think that's the way we would like to take forward this conversation today. So there's a lot of learning, I'm sure, from the fellow panel members and all the 200 participants who are there. I'm sure we are up for an engaging, interesting conversation during this session today. So looking forward to learn and share my piece of it. Thank you, Deva.
And thank you, Sandeep. I mean, yeah, with the help of data, I think you made it more clear that we all are struggling everywhere. I mean, on recruitment, on retaining them, at the same time engaging them. So I would like to move to Dr. Neerav Mandir, because he is having a different set of experience. I mean, different industry he is managing and what the challenges what he is facing. We would like to hear it from you, Dr. Mandir.
Thank you, Devang, and first of all, thank you for having me, for all the leadership of HR Success Talk and the 200 participants joining over this call. I hope I'm audible to all of you. Yeah, thank you. So that's the irony, because when Dr. Ankita spoke about the context setting, how we are actually at war as far as the managing the talent is concerned. Sandeep already admitted that she spoke so well that he was running short of the vocabulary and the concept what he was supposed to speak. And that would be the irony for me as a third panelist, that what I would say, and generally what the third panelist would say is, I'll be sharing my different perspective over this topic. And I would technically would be doing the same thing, because nothing to say. She spoke so well, followed by the Sandeep. So when she was talking about the context setting for the managing the talent is concerned, I was thinking about the concept of abundance. And pre-COVID era, if we consider we were having the abundance of working from the office. In the COVID era, we were having the abundance of working from the home. Now we are talking about the series of abundance, which is the hybrid model. And also she spoke about the series of new normals, which just keep on coming after each strain for the COVID. So I was just recalled that famous quote from Franklin Roosevelt, who was the 42nd president of the United States, where he spoke that the test of our progress is not whether we add more to the abundance of those who have much, but it is whether we provide enough for those who have too little. I think we are leading on that particular aspect, where in 1997, when Stephen Hawking coined down the term called the talent war, or the talent is at war, he was even not knowing that this type of situation even could come, where we are actually this coin down strategies there in executive format. So when he spoke about the war and the talent, I would rather say that war of a talent, and I hope that neither Russia nor Ukraine is listening to this conversation, because they are actually at war. So what I was thinking, and to pitch on the today's deliberation, is like, if we are talking about the managing the talent, I won't use the word war. If we are talking about the managing the talent, the three core aspect would be really critical. First thing, that how we are attracting the talent. And that is the first and foremost aspect which any organization could ponder upon to get the best talent. And when Dr. Ankita was mentioning, I think I could share the challenge where the candidates are doing the moonlightning nowadays to get the offer letters and not joining the organization. The second aspect I would say is how you are curating and nurturing your talent. And that's again very critical, because every company is doing almost the same practice as far as their employee remuneration is concerned, the wages, the incentives, the perks, the benefits. I represent the diamond manufacturing company, and if you see 4 or 5 big manufacturers, they're actually doing the same thing what we are doing. So how you are carving your organization so uniquely that the talent can really get attracted towards the organization? What are those USPs of the organization, and what are those unique and you can say a very distinct practice where the organization are doing as far as their best practices are concerned, and that matters much when you are going to hunt for the talent. So that's the second aspect. Third, I would say how you are actually retaining your talent. So that's also very important, because after attracting the talent, curating the talent, give them the proper and desired successional planning role. If you are not being able to retain the talent by having the best practices in place, it would be a challenge for an organization to have a sustainable talent management practices across the various vertical. And that's, I think, the need of an hour, how you are really thinking distinct and really unique to have the best model out of it. That's my take for the introductory note. Thank you, Devang.
Thank you, Dr. Mandir. As you said, I mean, third and the last one to pitch, but yeah, you did it well. You stressed upon the main points. I mean, attracting, curating, and retaining the talent. How to manage the talent, rather calling it a war. How to manage them. With that, I remember what Dr. Ankita started with, that candidates are holding multiple offers. They are having many companies there to grab them. We HR, we business leaders, we are not sure whether they'll report on time. So my question is for Dr. Ankita, that how to ensure that we will get the right person at the right time with us. How to ensure that they join us. What should we do differently to ensure that they join us? Yes.
So, Devang, the simplest answer would be we will have to learn some magic, because otherwise it's not happening. No matter whatever we do, we will have this challenge. As in, if at all we believe that we will make all possible changes in the system, in our approach, in our processes, and the amount of offers we roll out, everybody is going to join in. That's not going to happen. So I would again bifurcate it in 3 parts. First is, we as an organization or as HR or hiring people, we have to accept that market is open. Market is such that employees or candidates will be there with multiple counter offers. We have to accept that candidate will continue to look out for more opportunities. And can we minimize that? Can we control it in a certain manner? Probably no. Second is enhance. Now that you have accepted that there is a possibility, and there is 100% possibility that people are roaming with, say, 10 different offers, and they will pick and choose which one they would want to join. It's really important to enhance your brand, your processes, your approach to hire people. One mistake that we end up doing is we start comparing ourselves with others, how good our organization or our processes. So imagine me as a person who is from Signex. I compare Signex with Google. I mean, probably good to feel factor, but will I be able to compete, or will I be able to get there? No. But I just pick everything that the other organizations are doing, and I start putting that in my system. Will you see success? Probably not, because the culture, the format, the model, everything is different. And we start putting things on our social media which are not real, which probably we are not capable of doing, but we intend to do. We want to see ourselves there, and we want people who are trying to join us, we want them to believe that we are already there. So instead of being better than others, I think it's really important for any organization to be the best in whatever they can do, their capabilities. And with this, I mean to say that enhance your brand. It should be visible to people who are reaching out to you. It should be clearly visible that what you are doing in reality and what your people feel about your organization. We all know when a hiring manager calls any candidate, they would have 10 points and say, this is what we are doing. Why will they talk bad about the organization? Or why a manager who is interviewing them will talk bad about the organization? That's the point, the initial point where they connect and they decide whether I want to join this organization or not. But that's also the point where they go to your Glassdoor, where they connect with existing employees, ex-employees, and they start checking how the organization in reality is. So we need to have a holistic approach where it's not just us who is talking good about the company, but also the people who were connected and who are still working with us. Third, I would say is communicate and connect. What they will get when they are part of the system, what value they will bring, at the same time how organization will enable them, how keen you are in having them in the system, what is the career path that you would define for them, what's the clarity of role for which you are hiring them. Once they are in the system, how well they will be treated, they will be working with which individual. A lot of times we initially ensure that hiring team connects very well with the person, but what about the manager, a person with whom they would be directly working with? There's no connect, there's no personal connect. And today, at least, I would not say thanks to COVID, but definitely because of COVID, people have started asking for little more personalized approach. They want you to know what's going at their end, and they would want you to connect personally in addition to the professional expectation that we carry. So it's really important. That's what we have started, not only hiring team, even when we roll out the offer, we ensure, a lot of you must be doing that. We keep connecting with the candidate. Hope things are fine. Hope you'll be joining on this date. But how many of us actually get the management or the hiring or the delivery manager or his or her direct reporting manager to connect and ask, how are things? Do you have any questions with respect to the project? Do you want to know anything further? Where do you want to see after 5 years? All these things happen, when a person joins in, when goes through the entire thing for 1 year, and at the time of appraisal we ask, what's next? What do you want from us? Where do you see yourself in next 3 years? Why can't we have those conversations now? So that's the third point. I think to conclude, I would say, because the processes are same, you cannot cut down on your recruitment or hiring process or onboarding process. All those things remain same. Now people need little more of personalization. And to end, I would say, don't follow the market blindly. A lot of things are happening already in the market. People are saying, and for us also, when we benchmark, I think Sandeep already shared. He said, earlier we used to say, for this particular role, 10K is the referral bonus. For this particular role, at max, this is the joining bonus that I can give. I think we need to stop comparing with the market, but we need to do a direct comparison with the business that we are catering to. A lot of HR people, and I feel happy when I hear them that, when we talk to managers and we say, but what's the margin? Are you able to make good margin? Do you think that this person will add value, even if it's a little higher than what's mentioned in the requisition form? If this individual is good for business, why don't we hire this individual? Because we are maintaining a good margin and we can do something else with some other open position or the openings that we have. So that linking it with the business, then market is really important. And I think that is helping teams getting in people with the exceptions they are expecting. Because if we believe that we will interview 100 people and all of them would join, that's not possible. If we believe that we have defined a benchmark and everybody would join within that range, that's not possible. There are too many deviations, there are too many exceptions that would be happening, and we have to do it in a creative or innovative manner where we manage the talent as well as the business part of it. So there's a mix, there is an up and down. There's no balanced equation that we can go ahead with, but it is doable. Thanks, Devang. That's from my end.
Yeah, I think you shared many points to address this issue. But if I personally take, because I'm also struggling with the same issue, so yeah, connecting them well, connecting them with what culture we have, what we are offering apart from the salary, what kind of culture, what kind of career growth we are offering that person, and being realistic about that, and not just a marketing speech we are doing, but as an HR, if we can give the realistic overview what we are as a company offering that person, I think. And yeah, the point which you said, that not what market is sharing, but what we can as a business can afford, and we can as a business, what is viable for us, we should do. Yeah, you, I think, shared many points for all of us. I would request Sandeep and Neerav, if they have any additional point on this to share, if they want to contribute.
No, I think I'll just add into what Dr. Ankita started with. Unfortunately, none of us have what we call it as a right recipe or a magic stick to solve the problem in the given scenario. But what we all are talking about is what could be potentially effective strategies to deal with situations. So I think that's where things will continue to be dynamic. But yes, I mean, as Dr. Ankita pointed out, there are things which we should focus upon. Is increasing the personal touch, working upon employee experience throughout the HR life cycle, ensuring you present your brand strongly. So these are, I think, some key essentials that companies will have to continue to do to make a difference in terms of the strategies, the personalization, positioning of the company, and end of the day, tying back your outcomes with end business results. So this definitely are the key themes going forward.
Thanks, Sandeep. Yeah, on the same note, because as we were talking, candidates are holding multiple offers, and we as an HR, we also have our targets, our goals, our KRAs to maintain that people should join on time. Sometimes we have to offer the salary which is above our budget. But in that case, our entire budget, manpower budget, go haywire. So how to ensure that our budget doesn't go haywire, and we control on the budget when we have we need, at the same time we need to ensure that people join us. This is to Sandeep. Yes.
Thank you, Devam. So I think there couldn't be a more pressing issue than this to any HR fraternity member today, in terms of what is the right compensation, what is the right salary pay package for the skill which is already in demand. But before I kind of deep down into this entire subject as to what should be or potentially could be a right pay package, let's understand where are we working, what is the world outside which is surrounding HR people, and why this whole thing is happening. Again, some of the quick stats, if you talk about, most of you must have read the recent LinkedIn report which has come in, wherein LinkedIn says very clearly out of the latest survey that it did, that 82% of India's workforce is going to look for a job switch in year 2022. Second, we all in the HR fraternity have been some or other way using Naukri. Now, recent statistics that Naukri.com actually published out is in last 6 months' time, 32 lakh job search has been happened specifically for looking for a permanent work from home or a temporary work from home or temporary remote location. And that too, out of this 3.5 lakh searches have just come in the month of December, where people are now exclusively looking for what we call it as this work from home options. And to top it up, all this is coming because Naukri has now given an option in their job search portal that one can specify if one is only interested to look into a permanent work from home or a temporary work from home. And another interesting statistics, which kind of I learned recently out of the research, is that in India, potential candidates are considering an option to work from home or a flexible working option as equivalent to 10% of increase that they would otherwise get from the company. So when you put all these things in a context, this is where how things are getting driven in terms of our strategies for pay structure is concerned. But I would honestly admit, this is all demand driven market. It is the talent which is the negotiator right now, and all of us are trying to manage the situation. But end of the day, there are calls that we need to take from a business standpoint of view when you're talking about the niche skill which is required, when your project pipelines are historically high for the last 5 or 6 years, and there is a revenue realization which is awaited in terms of looking at a niche talent which can come on board and can actually help you realize this revenue. In this given context, definitely there is a pressure from the business side in terms of not going too hard in terms of what we call as that so-called HR norms of creating salary benchmarks and looking into range penetrations and doing those salary surveys. Because to be honest, and I'm sure my fellow panel members would agree, today unfortunately there is no norm left over. I mean, if I'm talking about highly skill-based industry, technology-driven ITS industries, you talk about fintech, you talk about logistics, there is no norm now. There were days when you would, as an HR, figure it out that is 15% hike a right hike, or is 20% hike a right hike, or probably in a niche skill area is 35-40% hike is a right hike for the people. Today, I'm sure each one of us have faced a situation where there are employees coming on board with you every single day and saying, you know what, I have a 100% hike offer, I have a 200% hike offer, and there is no benchmark. People with 5 year salary talking about getting 40 lakh packages. Now, where is the norm? Where is the benchmark here? You don't have any clue. So it is the skill which is driving the market. It is the demand which is forcing us to look at things differently, and hence I don't think any HR fraternity member in a technology driven business was in a position to set the norm for this. So we all have been kind of evolving with this. But obviously, when it comes to strategies, a few things that we all have to do. First of all, I would not say how do I optimize the pay packages, but I can certainly align myself with what industry is doing. But again, when we say aligning with market, it is on a high growth phase. Aon survey, which actually talked about the last year, our surveys, the whole average salary increase at the industry level was 9.3% in 2021, which is now expected to touch 10%. Across all the subsectors in technology-driven businesses, companies are looking at giving double-digit salary hikes. So definitely, you need to align yourself in terms of whether you are paying the right amount of compensation to the employee, and are you aligned with the market. At the same time, one of the interesting factor that Dr. Ankita also pointed out is while you try and benchmark yourself from outside external factors, you need to look at whether it is viable, whether it is feasible from a company standpoint of view. And that's where I think what companies are now doing is redesigning the whole compensation structure. Again, something which is done in multiple times in many companies also, but organizations are now carefully looking at it in terms of how do you pay the compensation. Obviously, more than ever, there is increased demand to link it with the end outcome of the business. That's where exactly we talk about the margins or the revenues that you achieve. Or there are even conversations happening in outsourcing company like us where we say, what is your per FT dollar realization? What is the value addition in terms of per FT in terms of business in last few quarters? And that's where when you look at any individual coming in with a niche skill, you talk about value billing, whether this niche skill is bringing an opportunity for a value billing. If I was earning, let's say, X dollar per hour in my business model, would this addition actually help me X plus Y dollars per hour in my business? So tying back in terms of your output, in terms of your margins, that's where this whole realignment in terms of performance linked incentives, your profit sharing, your revenue models. So I will be honest, in last year, though we had all these strategies in place, but believe me, there was no single grade wherein we didn't have to go back and realign everything. So the last whole year, almost I would say we had a 360-degree revamp in terms of our compensation structure. There were PLIs, there were bonuses, there were retention amounts which are there, but everything has to be realigned, reimagined, because the external forces are also there in terms of making sure that you don't lose the critical talent at the critical stages of your business. So this is, I think, the second area where realigning with the market, making sure you pay the right way. Uh, an interesting twist nowadays is that I was actually part of one of the leadership forum a couple of days back, where some of the companies, especially in the small and medium-sized sectors, what they've started doing is they started realigning their compensation structure differently. So they don't want the young millennials to wait for end of the month to get the salaries, because there's a lot more outflow happening these days than the income coming, and there are a lot of avenues of spending money. So what they have relooked in terms of, rather than paying end of the month, can I pay weekly remunerations? Can I pay fortnightly remunerations? So there's again a different way of looking at how the remunerations can be redesigned to meet today's generation's need, actually. But again, I will be honest, this depends upon the kind of industry that you are into. While there are, I'm sure Dr. Neerav would agree, there are manufacturing industries where the whole focus is more in terms of social security benefits, encouraging employees to spend, save for their future, social security benefits. Some of the progressive industries where employees are thinking very differently, that they don't believe in terms of long-term working. So even as a company, we are into perennial generation, as we call. We have baby boomers, we have Generation X, Generation Y, we have millennials. Now the needs are very, very different. So you have to look at in terms of how do you compensate this talent depending upon their demographic background and their need. And again, that kind of takes us back to the whiteboard. That is your salary process right? Is it relevant? You have to think out of the box, that now you have to think differently. You can't just stick to the processes saying I will only pay end of the month, or I would only give the retention bonus after 5 year or 3 year. No, you have to make it more agile, I would say. At the same time, I think one of the important strategies that companies are focusing, and again, which existed, nothing kind of very, very new, is the strategy of building talent versus buying talent. So extensively, companies have now realized that there is no end to buying talent in the given dynamic market. The only way you can actually move up the value chain is how do you build the talent that you want. So you will see, when you look at the statistics, last year and a half or so, majority companies have invested heavily in terms of what we call it as the early talent pool. So highest number of campus hirings have happened. Right now, when you look at some of these data coming in from the IIMs and some of the big management institute, engineering institutes, even before the placement season have kicked in, all the students have got placed. So that shows companies are extensively investing in last year and a half in terms of acquiring the raw talent, developing the they want it, and kind of grooming up to move into the value chain, and thereby mitigate this risk of buy versus build talent. So that's where again you do that price correction of the talent internally. So these are, I think, some of the things which are work in progress when it comes to the strategy. Some of the other things, as we know, is more about upskilling employees. You look at your talent management strategies, that what kind of risk mitigation you have. Are you exposed to critical positions wherein if that one individual leaves, your organization is a standstill? Because that's where they take the organization for a ride, because they know their importance. So as a HR, I think is the most important role we all should be playing is to work closely with your managers, sort of departments, to look at map those critical roles, critical positions, identify those individuals, do what we call it as that RAG analysis, and look at is there a flight risk in some of these roles, and what proactive measure can you have to back up these critical positions internally. And that is again one of the way how do you mitigate some amount of risk in terms of people resigning at critical roles, but then you don't kind of what we say move the whole world to retain them, and yet make sure that you are profitable, you're realistic in terms of a business expectations are concerned. So this is again some of the things that the companies are doing in terms of what I say a better talent management strategies. And last but not the least, I think I cannot deny this point, which everyone understands: use technology, mitigate the risk of your people dependencies in processes. It is all about the era of automation. It is the era of AI. It's era of machine learning, chatbots. So all these tools kind of enable organizations to reduce the people dependency on transactional activities. So, but again, being into HR fraternity, I would never say that we are heading to a world which is not dependent on people. Industries will always be people oriented, but how do you mitigate the risk is move away your people dependency from the transactional roles, and then move them up on the value chain also. Like each of this talent has to realize that if a chatbot, if an AI tool or a machine learning tool is helping me do what I call it as a routine mundane job, what is it I should be doing tomorrow? That is where the upskilling comes into the picture in the organizations, that you invest in technology, you invest in training people, you invest in their skills, enable them to do some higher value added activities, which in turn creates more revenue opportunities for your organization. And that's where you have that balance of technology versus people, and you still have a growth story to tell to your people part of your growth journey. So that's how, Devang, I would summarize. These are some of the strategies that organizations are working with. But again, I will be very honest to admit saying, is there a right recipe? Is there a magic stick to say, how can I control my payroll cost? I would admit and say no. And if anyone on the call can help me, I will be more than happy to learn with it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the way Dr. Ankita said, we are evolving through this challenging journey, rather, to add the last lines. Yeah, again, with this tough times, we have seen first wave, second wave, third wave. In fact, we were more worried in first wave, where cases were low, and we spent our time with our family. We understood that work can be done from home, and all this evolving process. We understood the importance of mental well-being as well. So, being the HR professional, how we can ensure that our people, how we can ensure their mental well-being, and I would like to hear it from Dr. Neerav. What you think, how we can ensure the mental well-being of our employees, those who may be working from home, those may be working from office or hybrid, how to ensure that?
Yeah, thank you, Devang. So before coming to your question, Devang, I would like to spend 2 minutes on the earlier deliberation, what my fellow panelists have spoke about. They spoke about the right kind of a secret sauce for the compensation structure, and how whether we should be buy talent or whether we should be build upon talent. Like to share like 2-3 incidents where how SRK is managing the respective stuff. We are slightly into the 180-degree side of that entire scenario. Being an industry leader, we humbly enjoy the privilege to set the benchmark for the compensation for the staff. And when Sandeep spoke about the skill set, which is really making the buzz in the as far as the creating the height for the compensation structure is concerned. So we always believe in nurturing the talent. So you'd be surprised to know that we don't hire any experienced employee in the manufacturing processes. We do have an in-house training center. Anyone who wishes to come into the diamond industry has to join and undergone for a 3 months rigorous training, and one has to start from the scratch. That's how we would like to build our own talent rather than getting it absorbed from the market. On the other aspect, when we spoke about the skill set part, and that is the only thing which through which the entire industry is like working, and that's the legacy of the industry. You'd be surprised to know, Devang, and in the interest of the fellow respondents, so how that would be challenging for the organization to manage a talent where the average formal education of the 6,000 employees would be less than 10th grade. So you can imagine, it's purely a niche skill-based industry, and I can proudly say that that's the only industry where gives the employment and a good amount of compensation to those guys who are not having a formal education. So, and then still out of 6,000 employees, almost 2,000 employees are earning more than 1 lakh rupees per month. And that's the average salary what we pay. And if you talk about the average salary for the entire 6,000 employees, that is on and around 45,000 rupees. What would be the situation if the James and jewelry sector would have not given that kind of opportunity to those candidates who have not got time on due to any whatsoever situation, they could not get the formal education. And that's the legacy of the industry, and that's how we are trying to provide the employment for the marginalized people by providing them the skill set and where they can earn their remunerations. Coming back to your question, I still remember when lockdown hit in this 2020 March, and I started resuming the job in the June 2020. I've been asked by the management to think and define the strategy, how we may be doing the restructurization for the arrangement because it's a manufacturing, and we don't really enjoy that privilege to have a hybrid model or working from home, or kind of having the remote working kind of a setup. So we had to literally redesign the entire sitting arrangement by having the COVID guidelines in mind. And we initiated the production with the 50% capacity in the August 2020. And we have faced the first, second, and third wave in the premises itself. But the moment I would even ponder upon my thoughts that apart from the mental well-being, when you are actually working from the office, especially in such extraordinary times, it's really tough to have a physical well-being rather than a mental well-being. And the reason why we say it, so one of the USP what the company did is like, what extraordinary things apart from the COVID guidelines we are doing to make our employees more safe and healthy. So we started the fumigation of the chlorine dioxide directly into the AHUs to make the entire environment and the entire ecosystem disinfectant. And that as a result, we found less number of cases in comparison to other diamond manufacturing units in Surat. And that was again a USP to attract the talent. So as Ankita and Sandeep very well spoken about, to define the various strategies and creating those USPs, how you can attract the talent. So when I just share one example, when we go for a campus and we ask the candidates that you'll be getting a chance to work in a building which is world's #1 rated green building by US Green Building Council, and that really clicks them that what exactly this it means to work in a world's #1 rated green building. So that's again a kind of a thing. And what is the level of a compliance of an organization, where the candidates are really focusing as of now, that whether where I'm going to work, whether the company is really compliant, whether what's their take on their social security, what's their take on the employee engagement and the employee welfare. So these are the markers which is really nowadays attracting the talent to choose whether to work in the respective organization or not. Coming back to your question, as far as the mental well-being is concerned, Devang, I would say that because many organizations are working in a hybrid model where they are working from the office and for some days they are working from the home. The most kind of drainers, I would say, is the distraction, whether you're working from the office or working from the home. A single phone or a mail or a kind of any communication which triggers your mind would definitely deviate your focus, and which ultimately you'll be drained out of your productivity. If you go to the survey by University of California, once you lose your focus by any such instances, it will take almost 23 minutes and 15 seconds to get back to get that focus which you are having in that particular task. So it's a huge time, and I'm not a follower or the advocate for the like the higher working hours or the, but due to this distraction, what is happening is the people who are like starts their work in the morning and they ends their work in the late evening, and they say that like my work is so much that I am overburdened to my work, without getting realized that it's not the overburden, it's the kind of the productivity issue and the issue of distraction which is actually stretching your working hours. And they even end up working on the weekends and they say now I'm work burnout. So that realization has to be identified by identify those markers of distraction, whether you are working from home or working from office, which is really kind of a working as a drainage factor for your productivity. And that's, I think, impairing because suppose as an example, if I'm working from home and I'm having a call, so I the in my mind the concept is running, my shirt is not washed, or I have to which shirt I have to wear, and there is some work going on in the home, so what I should be doing, whether it will distract my call or not. So these are the kind of a distractive and the factors which the employers has to work rather than getting distracted and again getting stretched yourself in the working hours, and that ultimately build up the cognitive load of the employers, and that's how the employers are feeling more overburdened, especially as far as their mental well-being is concerned. And I would also add, and then we literally practice this theory at SRK. Is the Herzberg who gave this theory. Is called the theory, two-factor theory. So there are two factors which is really impacting on your mental well-being. The first factor is kind of the job satisfaction factor and job dissatisfaction factor. The things which is actually impacting on your job dissatisfaction is the hygiene factors. So hygiene factors, where I would say that what are the working conditions? If you're working from home, what are the working conditions? It surely applies to the working from home also. And how are your correlations with your peers, your superiors, your buddies, and your wherever you are working from any environment? What are those markers? And Frank von Stompenas, who is the veteran in the field of culture, very wisely mentioned that the amount of social thread you are into with your peers or your superiors or your colleagues, that would actually impact on your productivity. So that we cannot avoid or we cannot neglect that fact that the amount of social relation we are building upon with our peers, and that's especially in the working from home model, the chemical which gets generated in our mind, it's called oxytocin, which is a kind of a social influencer chemical, which is not getting generated when you are working from home, or rather less getting generated into that factor. So that again be working as a drainer for their productivity. And the other factor, what Herzberg talks about, the job satisfaction factor, that how you are actually giving the influencing factor to your job satisfaction in your organization. So whether how you are pondering upon the achievement and the attainment of your employees, how you are thinking about your R&R practice, how exactly the advancement in the behavior and the technology you are foreseen to, and how you are actually taking care about the personal growth of an employee. So in the if we have the amalgamation and the right mixture of those the job dissatisfaction, job satisfaction, mainly the hygiene and the motivational factors, and that should be given a result what we are desiring to have a better productivity and check the and the cap the goodness about the employees mental and a physical well-being. That's my take on this, Deva.
Thank you, Dr. Mandir. I'm sure participants would have understood that not just the yoga session or meditation sessions, but there are a lot more to do to ensure the mental well-being, physical well-being of our employees. With that, I would like to ask Dr. Ankita Singh that how to ensure the that people are engaged with the company, people are engaged with the mission and vision of the company, how they can be engaged well, because I mean, few of them are working from office, few of them are working from home, maybe hybrid, or all of them are working from home. In such scenario, how to ensure that they are well engaged with the organization?
Thank you, Devang. I think Neerav, in some manner, he has already covered that, so I won't elaborate it to an extent. But I would say, for anybody to connect and to get engaged, it's really important that you make them part of the entire process. A lot of times, we as HR people, what we do, we define processes, we define initiatives, we roll them out, and we expect people to just become part of it, right? I mean, HR is there, so they will come up with certain things and others have to follow. Wherein I have seen a lot of organizations have already started doing it, a lot of HR people have already started doing it. They involve others from the beginning, as in, what all we want to do, who all will be involved, and how do we want to initiate or launch that in the system. Now, engagement definition for a lot of us is different. I think for each organization, you have to define what you mean by keeping your employees engaged. I believe when we did a survey in our organization, we understood that a lot of people, for them, engagement is if at all you are able to reply to their mails on time, if they are getting their salary paid on time, if they are able to go through the training process all the trainings that they need to deliver their project on time. If those fundamental basic things are done on timely basis, without any delay, without multiple follow-ups, they say that we feel engaged, because we know we've been hired for this particular thing. Whatever is expected from us, you are enabling, and there's no disconnect, there's no gap in between. Wherein for a lot of people, when we checked with them what engagement means for you and how do you think you will feel more engaged, they said we would want to come to office, we would want to do different initiatives, we would want to be part of different HR activities, and that's the only way we would feel more engaged. So first, as I said, you need to communicate, tell them why you are doing this, when you will be doing all these things, even if you are initiating new initiatives, how you will go ahead with it, what we will actually achieve out of it. Second, define your engagement process or initiatives, right? The definition for HR itself, forget about employees management, it differs. You have to get to a level where you know what right kind of engagement initiatives mean for your organization, and do your people get it right. Third, I would say, don't overdo things. As I said in our report, it came, if the basic fundamental things are done really well, people feel that they are engaged. We don't need to do activities which are over and above. A lot of times when we talk to HR, they say that, so now Holi is coming. What do we do on Holi? And is engagement all about just making those rangolis? We have made jokes out of it, but that's the fact that it has to be part of engagement activity. It has to be part of your engagement initiative. So you also have to find a right mix where, even though when people are working from home, maybe you cannot call them to office and make them do those things, but use of technology is already there. You have enough tools, you have enough platforms where you can engage people, you can understand what they want to do. And I don't want to get into details, because I have already seen, when I log into my LinkedIn, I see so many organizations coming up with innovative ideas, and we can see those pictures, which are all online initiatives. We see people who are part of engagement activities, they are coming up with trainings, and they are rewarding and recognizing employees who are doing trainings at self-paced. So again, to conclude, I would say the definition of engagement is different, but to maintain the needed flow with the people who are working from home or from office, we need to, one, communicate, second, define your engagement definition right, and third, don't overdo anything. To wind up, I would say, sometimes as an HR person, we keep doing what we feel is needed than doing what actually is needed. So we need to keep the feel factor aside. We have technology, we have enough data available in and around us. We need to use it to understand the individual and personal need of the system as well as the employees, and define engagement plan for the individual if possible. Then you can go to a team, then to a particular bucket, and probably to the organization. It cannot be one single tool or one single definition that will fit your entire organization when we talk about engagement.
Wonderfully said. I mean, so many times I've seen that we HR professional, we impose that what we feel right. Let's, for example, Holi, we'll celebrate Holi, but yeah, we don't check with the participants whether they are well interested for such event. So yeah, very well said. We are sort of time, so we'll quickly have two more questions, which we have for Dr. Neerav and Sandeep. So one is how to ensure that if at all we provide training online or offline, how to ensure that we get it, we ensure that it is effective for the people, for the employees. If you can sum up, Dr. Neerav, within 2 minutes, because we are running short.
Yeah, thank you, Devang. So what we do, I'll share my example because we are running short of time. What we do at SRK is we are following the Kirkpatrick's model. So under the Kirkpatrick model, I think the assessment or the effectiveness of the training is defined in like 4 parameters, in which we can actually check the effectiveness of that particular learning and organization development initiative. The first factor which we do is the reaction. So once we do any type of training, I'm not getting into details by how we are doing the need assessment for the training and all, because it's specifically to the effectiveness of the training. So it's post-training scenario I'm looking at. So reaction is the immediate marker where we can check the pulse of the audience, where they actually liked it or not. It's like after watching the movie, we immediately throw our feedback that whether we liked the movie or not. So that's the immediate reaction we capture through a very immediate pulse survey of the respondents of our employees, whether they actually like it. What's the first take after that particular training? That's then after we also check the learning vertical, that what exactly the learning what they could gain in that particular module. And we do have a in-house ERP system where we measure the learning curves of that particular training, and then we correlate those curves with respect to their pulse survey and get the kind of analytics out of it to gauge the kind of effectiveness for that training. The third thing what we check is the in-person behavior, whether there is any change or a slight amount of change in the behavior of that person towards their employees, towards in their buddies, their colleagues, their peers, their superiors. So that's again a very prompt and a kind of apt marker to assess the effectiveness of the training, and that gives the kind of a result how we are doing it. And the last one what we check is the impact of that particular training, that what exactly the impact on the productivity of the employees. The good part about our competency mapping is that if suppose I start my work in the morning, I'm talking about the manufacturing side. If I start my work in the morning and I finish my work in the evening, so I can get the whole day summary of my work, and that replicates for the quarter, month, and the year. So for the appraisal process, we don't need to much apply our brain, because it's a 80-20 ratio where we capture 20% of the behavioral aspect and 80% of the kind of the technical aspect what we capture for the our appraisals. So even we don't need to deliberate much upon the appraisal, that why my appraisal is such and my buddy who was working next to me got this much of amount and I got only this. So we that is very transparent and unique performance management system what we have applied. So what is that direct impact on that the competency mapping and ultimately the how you are managing your performance? So these are the 4 markers laid by the Kirkpatrick what we follow at SRK, and that's how we check the effectiveness of our training. That's my take.
Wonderful. I mean, very, very few company I know those who have implemented Kirkpatrick model. So wonderful. Yeah. Moving on to Sandeep. I mean, last question of the day from my side. We can take questions from our participants. We can restrict to a couple of questions only. But yeah, before that, my question is for Sandeep is that we all are struggling. You already have stated that the attrition has shoot up like anything, and yeah, all are struggling there. So how, or rather, what are the ways to minimize? As we have already discussed it many times, that we cannot make it zero. Even pre-COVID, we could never make it zero. But yeah, how to minimize the percentage, or how to minimize the resignations in the company in this current, I mean, tough times rather.
Yeah, so thank you, Devang. I think that pretty much summarizes this whole conversation when we come back to the core issue, which is, why there is a need to look for more talent, because their existing talent is moving out and you need to fill in those gaps. So I think every one of us definitely need to focus upon the reasons which are driving attrition. And before I jump down into solutions part, I think when we look at overall broadly what is happening, and I'm only talking about India as a context, across generally different sectors, barring apart some of the traditional sectors, like what Dr. Neerav is representing, where we don't have much of a scope in terms of having the remote working. But when I look at top 3 or 4 reasons why employees are leaving in general in this entire phase of last year and a half or so. First and foremost is nowadays employees look forward for this entire so-called flexible work model. Increasingly, we talked about what Naukri is saying, we talked about what employees' preferences are. People are nowadays interested to look at companies which are offering them this whole flexibility of permanent work from home, remote work from home, the hybrid work model. So I think that is one important factor. Second, I'm not coming to compensation. I think we kind of dwelled enough in terms of the compensation part. We've spoken enough about that thing. But other than that, I think purpose in the job. I think what is more important these days is that the generation that we're dealing with is not that generation which believes in coming into that 10 to 7 and then kind of just making sure that we are available for 12 hours. So they believe what is the larger purpose of my job. So at the same time, they also ask this question as to what is that I'm doing to my purpose of life. So the most important part is that how do you create them a platform in terms of aligning their own purpose in terms of their professional aspirations, personal aspirations. At the same time, how do you align them with the organization's growth vision? That is, I think, the second important aspect, which is purpose in the job. And third is the learning opportunity. How do you give them a platform in terms of upgrading their skills, learning something new, whether it is technology, non-technology driven environment, but how do you move them up in terms of the knowledge base? So this primarily are the three factors which drives attrition as a whole, if I talk about. And pardon me, I'm not going specific to an industry because it all depends upon which industry, which background you belong to. But these are those key drivers. Now, when we focus upon solutions in terms of what is it that we can do, of course, for this whole flexible work environment, I think companies need to quickly embrace the reality of world today, which is come up with the hybrid work models. So a lot of them have already done it. Some of them are in process of adopting these new things. But I think there is an interesting shift also happening. Um, I'm sure a lot of my colleagues on the HR fraternity would agree that what is happening these days is that while it was a COVID pandemic period, people are very happy to accept the offers as far as it was remote working. So whether I'm sitting in Jaipur, I'm in Bangalore, I'm in Pune, I'm in Orissa, I was happy to accept the offer when company was giving me remote working option. But down the line, 6 months when things have now back to normal and the COVID wave is now settling down and now my HR is asking me to report back to my base location. That's when I say, you know what, I'm happy to resign, but not to come back and work from office. So I think what is also happening interestingly is there is a big shift in terms of HR strategy, and that shift is rather than we forcing talent to come and work in a geography that you operate to, how do you go reach out to the geographies where talent is willing to be? So a lot of companies now have come up with thought process in terms of setting up those remote work offices. Now, thankfully, we are in a situation in a landscape of business where we have these wonderful co-working office options available. So instead of asking people from Pune, Bangalore, Hyderabad, or other tier two cities to come and relocate here in Ahmedabad, let's say for an example, companies are going out and creating their co-working space options there, and even there they're offering the hybrid work model. So you have a satellite office there, which let's say sits around 50 odd seats, and as a company you don't invest heavily in terms of the infrastructure capex, but you have an office there. Now this talent can come and work from the office for a couple of days in the week or probably once in a fortnight, but yet you're not forcing them to come and be in your base location, let's say Ahmedabad, just for an example. So this is one thing that people are doing in terms of reaching out to where talent is rather than forcing talent to come to you. This is, I think, one of the effective ways companies are dealing with it. Second is the whole redesigning of the workplaces, right? Again, it is further extension to the flexible work environment. The entire technology piece, Dr. Ankita also spoke about, is how do you enable these hybrid work models? How do you collaborate people? Everything falls into it. Engagement, we talked about, Dr. Neerav talked about learning extensively. So how do you enable all these things through a technology platform? That's where companies are investing heavily. Let's say this whole technology which enables you to have project teams working in different corners, different time zones. You have Google Jamboards where people are collaborating ideas from any corner of the world. So that is where people are now innovating the workplace experiences also, where one doesn't have to be physically in the premises. And let's all not forget what we have been hearing these days from Mark Zuckerberg. Right now, he started calling his Facebookers. Now he's out of. If you read the newspaper, it says he's out of Facebookers and he's now saying metamates, right? So there are now times wherein you will see this metaverse as a concept increasing gradually. I know it's too early in the stage, but it's not a distant reality that there will be a virtual environment where people are walking in, interacting, things like virtual onboarding happening, people actually coming in your office virtually without having being there physically. So all these technology elements will come in, because that's something that we think probably may not be possible. But yeah, I mean, the way things are moving, you never know, the whole HR world would move in this metaverse itself, and a lot of technology is being invested on these areas also. So this is all again improving the experience of enabling these kind of workplaces, this kind of culture. Couple of other important things before we close. The whole aspect of learning, the whole aspect of job security is very important here. So every company is investing in terms of how do you move up the value chain, how do you reinvent the skills of employees. These are various things happening, which again a lot of companies have done it in terms of cross development. Technology companies, let's say there is a whole investment happening. If I talk about specifically IT companies, that rather than hiring different set of skills, so people are now looking at creating that whole program of how do you develop full stack developers internally. You don't have to hire someone who can do development separately or QA separately or a front end separately. So how do you look at this whole concept as someone who's multi-skilled, multi-talented, and then put them into real-time business project situations? So upskilling, giving talent an opportunity to contribute to a larger cause of the business. These are those areas where HR is closely partnering with businesses. But these are some of the opportunities that we have if you really want to make an impact on attrition in a short-term basis. But I think we go back to the first thing that we spoke about in today's session, that do you think overall attrition is going to come down in next few weeks or months? Probably no. We will continue to handle the situation for a couple of quarters or more, or probably it may span up to more than a year also. But some of these strategies companies will have to adapt ongoingly and work upon this as we navigate through this business landscape today. So that's what Devang I had to add on this part.
Thank you, Sandeep. I think you covered it well. And in fact, on the questions from our participants' side, if I talk about, we could answer all. In fact, a couple of questions already answered by Dr. Ankita in chat box. Yeah, but one specific question we have from one of our LinkedIn live user, rather participant. He wants to know that how to manage the talent war, how to ensure the talent war, how to deal with talent war in unorganized sector like construction. And I think Dr. Mandir can answer it well, because he is already doing it. If precisely, I mean, because we are already completed 12:30.
Yes. So I won't take much time to answering this question. Even for the James and jewelry sector, if you check the scenario 10 years back, it was considered to be a very unorganized or a semi-organized sector. So it's rather a myth. Rather, I would say that the talent war is more challenging in the unorganized sector and less challenging in the organized sector. I think Dr. Angita even may have some glimpse in that how even it is more challenging in the organized sector also. But it's just a sheer myth. The kind of the modules or kind of intervention which you are introducing in the organization to manage your talent. I also spoke about the how we can attract the talent, curating the talent, and then retain the talent. I think that matters more, and how you are linking your culture to your vision and mission in the interest of the organization, and even in the interest of the employees. That would ultimately be a kind of a successive factor to have the talent management module for your organization. And that's how the respective organization, there is no one golden secret for all, and there is no one definition, and there is no one equation where you can apply and you can get rest assured that your talent would get managed. Depends on the culture of the organization, depends on their kind of ecosystem of the organization. It has to be designed so uniquely that it addresses your need of the talent management, rather than comparing your organization with the other organization in the same sector. I think that would help, and it requires a due diligence and great intervention of the leadership, that how and what are those strategies in the interest of the employees and talent management, which can be decided and applied in the respective companies.
Thanks, Dr. Neerav. Yeah, I think we could answer all the questions, or rather we could share precise information for our fellow participants, fellow HRs. And for that, I would like to thanks our panel member, our esteemed panel member. They wonderfully articulated all the points, and I am sure it will help all of the participants on Zoom, on those who are present on our social media platform. So thank you everyone. Over to you, Aneri.
Thank you so much, Devang, for wonderfully moderating the entire webinar. A big shout out to all the speakers for the amazing insights. I'm sure the audience would be enlightened by your inputs. Yes. I would now request Pal to share the thank you note from Mr. Govind Negi.
Hi all. I wanted to be present personally in this webinar to give my vote of thanks. But because of my personal commitment, I know that I can't be live on the webinar. So through this video, I would like to thank people who have made this webinar so effective. To begin with, let me start with the moderator of the session, Devang. Thank you very much for making this topic something where people can learn from listening to our speakers. Our speakers who have shared their knowledge and, more importantly, the experience they had during this whole pandemic and the new world which we are seeing right now after the pandemic. The topic of talent war in today's time is really something which many business leaders are concerned and talking about. We are yet to find solutions for that, and I believe that our speakers, their thought might have given you some idea or an understanding of what kind of problem and challenge we are going through, and possibly some ways by which we can deal with that. I would also like to thank all the participants who came to the webinar, spent their time with an objective to learn something out of it, especially all the HR professionals and students who are either dealing with the challenge or might face the same challenge in future. Also, a special thanks to our webinar team for organizing this webinar so well in collaboration with HR Success Talk Gujarat chapter. And I'm glad that Devang has started his contribution and impact to this community and business world by this first webinar. Also, I would like to thank all our sponsors, education partner, for being with us in this journey. I hope you all must have got something good out of today's conversation. Have a nice day ahead, everyone. See you.
Thank you so much, Govind, for those words. We really thank you as well for making all of this happen. I would now request Gauri. So we have a tradition here at HR Success Talk that whenever we are at the end of a webinar, we click a group picture. So since it's Zoom, I would request everyone to please turn on their camera so that Gauri can help take us a group picture. Gauri, let us know when you're done.
Thank you. It's done.
Okay, thank you, Gauri. A final thank you to everyone for joining this webinar. Special thanks to our speakers again for their contribution. This means a lot to the HR fraternity, dear speakers. Hope to be associated with you in many other ways. Have a great weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aneri. Thank you, Devang, and thank you all the fellow panel members. All of you have a wonderful weekend ahead.
Thank you.
Yes,